Hey addicts, welcome back to another book review. This time we're going to be talking about Blade of the Immortal, and I will be showing that just in a second. I just wanted to say that yes, we still are going to be doing other comic and movie stuff. We're just trying to get these other ones out of the way. I'm waiting for a couple things to come in, so don't worry, we are going to be getting to that. But in the meantime, we're going to be talking about this book, and I think this might interest even regular comic readers because I think it's a little bit more up that alley. But anyway, like I said, we're talking about Blade of the Immortal. This is the omnibus version, so it's got two volumes, regular volumes in one. And this was probably the first manga that I picked up. Well, not the first one. This is the second manga I've picked up that's like renowned to be a classic. So we're just gonna, talk about it a little bit. There's a lot of little things throughout the premise of the story that are very good in adding depth into not only the world but the characters, but they're not really important to talk about here, and especially since I'm going to try to condense this enough to talk about both volumes. So just going to talk a little bit more broader. So basically, if you want to break this down, the essence of the whole story is this guy that has had kind of like a bloodbath past, and him kind of trying to reform from that, kind of take out only the good people or just not kill, wait, did I say take out the good people? I mean, take out the bad people. So, he's trying to not kill just recklessly anymore. And then we have on the flip side of that, this girl that has her whole family slaughtered because of a blood feud between these two families and sword schools. And then, we get basically the culmination of, or I should say the colliding of those two characters with this young girl named Rin and this immortal bladesman named Manji, and her insisting, or I guess contracting his services to be a bodyguard and help her exact revenge on her family. So with that being said, that's all like real story threads, like detail I want to talk about. So if you're looking for more of like a recap or anything like that, not going to be this in this video, sadly. I am going to show a little bit I have of the art, because I think out of all of the mangas that I've picked up, this one has some of the most intriguing art to me. He has really big panels. Some are like all pages, some of them are double pages, and they're just really beautiful to look at. Now, one of the gripes I do have about the art is in some of the action scenes, it gets a little hard to really focus on what's going on. With comics and mangas, like that's not really, you're not going to get a good grasp on that anyway. I mean, you'll know generally what's happening, but the moves they're using and such, not so much. But I mean, the artist is very talented, and I can see why this is renowned as a classic. I mean, the art is really beautiful. And the one thing that you will get in this collection is not only this artwork that's spread throughout, it also comes with a glossary that helps fill in the pieces. There's actually some really cool information from the author, and also what went into making this version. So like for instance on this, we have a whole page of just an interview with the author, and I think that's really cool because it gives you a little bit more insight into the story, kind of like what he wanted to do, what the style came from, because this isn't a traditional period piece like samurai tale. It does have elements of that are really cool, and they're spread in there, but he does really mix a lot of things. For instance, like a lot of the dialogue has almost like to me it's like almost like Yakuza or like Japanese style goon dialogue. I mean, even the main character Manji, he's sounds kind of like a ruffian a little bit, or just he's not the brightest amongst people. So it's just really cool to have kind of mix up of that. There's definitely comedy spread in there that can be found in like other genre ones. It also has this really cool at the beginning, just a little bit in like where certain stuff came from, like where his symbol came from, what that means in this period of Japan. And so as far as like actual just looking at the omnibus collection, that is a really nice one. This one's done by Dark Horse. There is some really cool facts that I just won't go into detail about that you get in that front page that I showed you. And it's just a really well done collection, and I think the original art and story has been really good so far. That's not to say it doesn't have its downsides. I will go over a little bit more of the pluses that I have. For instance, the characters themselves, they are really fun. I think they have really good chemistry. So it really, has that, it helps keep it fresh as you're reading them, go place to place or meet new characters. The one thing I will say, though, is that most of the development you get with the characters is early on, and it's, I'm not going to say all of it's done through flashbacks, because that's not the case, but a lot of it is done through flashbacks, whether it be with the main characters or the side characters or the villains or antagonists, if you want to say that as well. The other thing, too, is that, and also I will say before I just move on that point, the ending does have probably the biggest one out of these two volumes. So, not to say things aren't happening, but in terms of characters, you really get the sense that these first two volumes are building the relationship between these two companions in the story on their journey. Not to say that their journey is, slow or they're not moving anywhere, because there is definitely a lot of fights in these two volumes and a lot of interaction with the villains and whatnot. But I would say, it's kind of a slow burn in terms of, the development of characters, which is not a bad thing. The one thing that I did mention just in passing is the villains. The villains, they do have several, as I kind of mentioned briefly when I was talking about the general aspect of the plot. It does have this sword school as kind of the main antagonist. This guy that's at the center of it all has a connection to Rin's family. And it's really cool because you get a little bit more of him, which I think is necessary. At the beginning, it is just like, it kind of just throws you into things. It kind of throws you into Manji's past, actually, at the beginning. But, you do get kind of like the villains in the present. And then you get a story of like passing, about the villains, which gets that little seed. But then in the second volume, it really does kind of show you some, things playing out essentially in flashbacks, but as presented as if they were happening in the moment. So that's really cool as well. The other thing I did want to mention is obviously the bad. There's I would say, even though I'm not overly disappointed at all, like I actually did like this. Like I said, it did. I was surprised that the formula is them meeting up, essentially moving from town to town, or like just around in the town or the city that they're in, and then just little interactions with, like, I don't want to say one-off villains, but some of them are, or at least in this volume, pictured as such. And, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Stardust Crusaders with in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, which I love that arc. So it's not bad in the sense that it keeps that formula, but it is something that I think, given that there is like 13 omnibuses, which is like 26 volumes, that could get old really fast. So especially since there's only two characters to work with here as the main focus. So I'm really hoping that in the third volume, but second omnibus, that there is some more in terms of branching out from that formula. I don't mind if it stays the same. I just need a little bit something more than that. And like I said, they do have that spread throughout, like showing some of the villains' backgrounds. But I will say, it is a very generic in terms of that, yes, this is a simple revenge story. But the one thing that I will say that I think makes this unique, or a bit unique, and maybe why it has stood the test of time of people really liking this, is that the main character, or I would say the central focus, at least so far, with the Immortal Manji, I hope I'm saying that right, is that he is a skilled swordsman, but because of certain things, he isn't really the best and he does, lose a lot. Or at least, he doesn't get out unscathed, which, he's an immortal. So, and they kind of play on that, for, story purposes as well, which I think is, a good thing to add on there. But the thing is that, he is, somebody that, you would think is, this unstoppable force, right? And I do like how the guy that is immortal isn't exceptionally well at combat, and even then there is an instance where he could die, because this isn't in the sense that, yes, he can repair himself, and I won't go into detail how that works, but there is still a way for him to die, more in one way, if some of the things that they mention in passing in terms of dialogue are said to be believed. So I think that is something that is nice, because you do have somebody that, yes, can take a lot of defeat and even, end in some gruesome manner, but it's not, going to be the end of the story. And also, I just think it's cool to not have somebody be super OP, because if he was the best swordsman that had ever lived and was immortal, that then you would have more of a traditional probably shonen or just one of those overpowerful character stories. So with that being said, I think this is pretty much all I want to mention, because I want to try to keep this semi-short. I will say, let me see here. Sorry, I was just looking at my notes real quick to make sure I didn't get anything for you guys. Nope, I guess that's it. So with that being said, do check this out if you are interested. I thought it was a good read. I'm going to be picking up the next one, so I'll probably review that when it comes out. It's already out, but so you can go buy it. But when I get my hands on it, just as a little preview for what's coming up, gonna try to get the other Alita volumes so we can finish reviewing that. There's also going to be some more comic stuff, like I said, of just, trying to get it, into my possession so we can, read it. We also have another manga I know that's going to be coming out, for review-wise. With that, we also have work plans for movie stuff. We actually got 2 movie reviews that are going to be coming out shortly after this. Don't know if they'll be in this week, probably be the next week. But then hopefully we'll be going back and doing some older stuff as well. So if that interests you, really hope that you can go check those out as well. As always, we're leaving links in there so you can go find what else you might want to see us cover, and go check out our library. And if you feel like we did a good job, maybe tell us we did so, or give your input. And let me know if any of you have watched the movie of Blade the Immortal, or watched the anime that recently came out. I'm going to be started watching the anime. I wanted to read the source material first, so I'm trying to balance that accordingly. But let me guys, or I always do that, but let me know what you thought of the movie too, because I'd be curious to hear about that, because anime or manga stuff doesn't always translate well onto the silver screen. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna shut up, so that'll be it. Later, addicts.